thing is like, how do I fall in love with this? What is it that is going to keep me energized for the weeks and weeks of rejection until we're finally finished with it? And I think this one for me, like I've had like 3 sequences in my career that I've actually got really emotional while I was working on them. Not that I cried, I can't cry. But this is one of them. I think it's because this is the first time that Hero really, I think, gets what his brother was all about. And it's the whole theme of the movie is based on this sequence is really that we can outlive, you know, even our time here through the ones that we love. So I think that's a good sequence to illustrate that. And again, like going back into feeling it, it's like I felt that so much when I was doing this sequence. And I think if I could feel it, then I know that hopefully the layout department who gets it next is going to feel it, and then the animation department who adds so much to it, they're going to feel it, and then it's going to be up on the screen, and when audiences watch it, you know, hopefully they're going to feel it. And that's the whole point of movies, right? It's like just to have this shared emotional feeling together. So anyway, I think that's our presentation for storyboarding. Are there any questions?
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm an editor in live action, and I have a lot of interest in moving into animation, and I know the biggest difference are the animatics. But how involved is the editor in terms of that process? Because it's very collaborative, like you were saying, but it seems more storyboard driven, more driven by the artists. Because if there's something that the producers aren't feeling, they might go back to the artist and have drawings redone. So how much creative input does the editor have in the editorial process, especially during the storyboard process?
I mean, the editors are a huge part of it, and we work really closely with the editors. Live action, it's a little different, right? Because they will film a lot of footage, and then they kind of assemble all that, and they'll shape it with the things that they have. But with animation, you know, we'll do a pass, we'll pitch it in a room like this, and the directors will sign off on it, and then everything goes down to editorial, and at that point, the editor actually takes all of that, puts it into the thing, and they add the voices, do the soundtrack, and then we all watch it in editorial again. And that's the advantage that we have in animation is that, like, if it doesn't work or if we want to add something or a new scene, it's not like we didn't shoot that, so we're going to have to go do reshoots. We just send it back to the story artist and say, okay, here we're going to change it, we're going to do this, we're going to add this other whole section, and we just do it from scratch again. And that our process really is one of iteration. It's sort of our strong suit, is because we make these movies over and over and over. We'll do like between 6 and 12 full reels, full different versions of the film before we start to finally find the film that's going to go into production and animation. But does that answer your question? It is different. We do, yeah.
You just said it's like we're cutting the movie before we make the movie. Our editor is a huge part of the filmmaking process. Tim Mertens was the editor on Big Hero 6 and a lot of other films. He always used to say that in story, that's where they're making the soup and they're adding all the ingredients to it. And in editorial is when you taste the soup and you know if it's really working or not. And they're just huge partners. And our Fabienne Raleigh, who cut Zootopia, also came from live action. And she too was just getting used to sort of the mechanics of how we worked. We worked with boards as opposed to a lot of footage and that sort of thing. But she said they're a huge part of it. You could really get a sense if something is working overall or not, because in story we're often working in sections, and so we might try to perfect a sequence, but then, and it's really funny and really firing, but then the editor cuts the whole act 1 or 2 acts together, or the whole movie, and you realize like you don't need that sequence. And so story and editorial they work hand in hand, and like Mark is saying, if something is wrong, we can try and fix it really quickly. Sometimes even in the editorial suite, we'll do really loose, rough boards and cut it and see it, replay it, and it'll somehow be loosely working. It just requires folks who can read rough storyboards, I feel like.
It's a very mysterious process, and the sequence that I showed, the Tadashi sequence, it's interesting to me. I always think of this sequence because I think we did this on screening 3. I think we maybe had 8 or 9 sequences or versions of Big Hero 6. On screening 3, we showed this and it worked. And we're like, oh, that feels really good. On screening 4, the sequence didn't work anymore. It wasn't emotional. It was the same sequence. There was we didn't change any of the drawings. And it had to do with the setup for it. So then it was going back to editorial, looking at what was happening before we got to that sequence. Why isn't it working anymore? And so the whole movie stays very fluid, and it has to until the last possible second, I think, because at some point animation starts coming along, and they'll pick a sequence like, oh, the sequence feels safe, and we'll start to animate it. Those we'll have to try not to change those, but sometimes we do.
Yeah. Sometimes we do.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Sarah. First of all, thank you for everything you've done for these films. And Mark, how dare you show that scene, because I was crying. First when you were showing the storyboard, and then the final scene.
Good.
But I think my question...
Me too.
Yes, definitely. But my question is, for the both of you, is there like I know there's a lot of qualities to being a good storyboard artist, but is there one that you say is the most important of all of them? And when or something in your life helped you to achieve that particular skill?
That's hard.
Story's a little bit of a renaissance, art form. Like, you kind of have to understand acting and staging and lighting and cutting, and like you kind of have to be at least understand all of them.
Yeah.
But for me, I think when we're looking at portfolios and coming to the studio, the one thing that I noticed, if it stands out, I'm like, okay, this person can learn all that other stuff. They can be taught it. But one thing that stands out that seems to be the thing that might be more rare is like the spark of being able to just inhabit a character. Like, to really understand what this character's thinking, and then be able to transmit that through drawings to the people who are looking at the scene. And for me, like, how I learned that is I was super fortunate. I got to work with Glenn King, was my mentor when I was an animator, and there's no better person than Glenn to really, like, he was really hard on me. he was a wonderful, amazing person, but he would, if it wasn't right, if it wasn't for the character, he would in a nice way tell me, rethink this, because it's not really, that doesn't feel like it's coming from inside. That's you're just making something up, and you feel it. And so that's the thing. It can be learned, it can be focused towards, but it's the one thing that I find, if you can do that, like all the other things, like, over time that'll come.
Yeah, and I the other half of that answer is having ideas, because some of our board artists, I found that when I got there, I would compare myself to really amazing story artists like Mark, and we have John Ripa, who came from animation. Then we have folks who came from layout in different areas, and I was like, what am I bringing that's different? And it was really like my own perspective, my own point of view, and how I would think, like how I would imbue myself in the characters. And that to me is ideas as well. There's a lot of, there's a guy named Tom Ellery. He's the funniest guy. He's an idea machine. He has a lot of gags and that sort of thing. We have a guy, Jim Reardon, used to work at Disney. He was a Simpsons guy, and he also worked up at Pixar and Wall-E. He would always be very self-deprecating about his drawings, but he really knew he was a natural with comedy, and he knew how to stage things for a joke. He could just come up with ideas like that. And then when we were in editorial, in those moments where we're like, what are we going to do? Our screening, it's Friday evening at 11 p.m. our screening is on Tuesday morning. How are we going to fix this? And it was those folks, the writers, the story people, who could come up with like, well, what if we tried this and what if we tried that? It was invaluable. So I think it's hard to say one thing, but
It's a good point because, yeah, that's my thing. I look forward and you look for something else. And that's, I think, the importance of having a room balanced of like people that are specialists at different things. Because no one person makes these movies. They're really collaborative. Next.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm actually studying to be a storyboard artist, and with 2 more classes I'll actually be certified. So right now I'm in the process of like putting a portfolio together and everything, and I can actually also do animatics. Now I've gotten mixed reviews from professors, like some have said, oh that's great, you know how to do it, that'll boost your chances, but then I've also gotten opinions from other professors saying, oh, are you kidding me? That's going to kill it for you. So, do you feel that a storyboard artist also doing animatics is an advantage or disadvantage, and or why? And why?
Sometimes when we review them, we like to just tap through them. And when we play the animatic, sometimes we don't even watch it with the sound. So
it's hard to really say because I can only talk about the perspective from our studio.
Yeah.
Generally, the more traditional approach of just stepping through of the drawings is enough for us to be able to tell. And an animatic can have timing and acting and a lot of other things that, if they're not done really well, they can get in the way of what it is that I think you're trying to show that you can do. And so I don't know if maybe some other studios love animatics and they would say, oh, just that's the only way we want to look at portfolios. But for us, I think just the more pure version of like drawings and just sell it to us. And even if, like a lot of times when we get portfoliors, like there'll be dialogue underneath. And a lot of times we don't even read it. We're just stepping through, like just sell this to me visually because that's what your job's going to be when you come. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So there was someone down there, yes.
Has there ever been an instance where a voice actor has come in and forced you to go back to the drawing board?
Yes. We've worked with a lot of different actors, a lot of different personalities. Most of them are wonderful people. And I'm not saying the ones that want it. No, I should take that back. I think it's the really good actors have a very strong idea of what they want to come from the characters, and if the character's doing something or saying something that falls outside of the way that they envision the character, I mean, they're a huge part of like establishing who that character is, and so yeah, they might have a problem with something, and then we'll go back and look at it. It's the same as anyone really has a problem with it. Well, if the director's, if you bring up a valid point, it doesn't matter who you are. It's like, okay, I hear you. Let's re-examine it and see if we can change it. I'm sure there's been times when it's been changed and probably times when it hasn't. Right here, sitting down next to you, Danielle. Okay.
How often do storyboardists get story credit? I see that a lot of times where storyboard artists, they get story credit because their storyboard changed the story.
Oh, I see. Well, everyone gets a story, like a storyboarding credit. You mean like story by at the front of the thing? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what the guidelines are for it. I think it probably has to do with the producers and the directors looking at the contribution of a particular individual, and if it went way above and beyond what is normally contributed by a story artist. If they were involved really early with the shaping, maybe even before things were being written or boarded, I think that at that point they'll consider like, okay, this person really was instrumental in shaping what this film became, and it's up to them to say whether they want to do that or not.
So often you'll find like the heads of story and the writers and the director will get that story by credit because you're just on so early and you're there really shaping the movie the whole time.
So Danielle, you said one question. Where are you? Do we have time for one more? Okay, one more. Over here.
So, I want to be a storyboard artist when I get older. I've been wondering, how do you guys get like the thick skin, like when you're on the hard work you did, like gets thrown away? How do you get that thick skin?
It's very true. Like, and I'll tell you how I see it, and what helps me is that because you have a team of people working on it with you, and you're all working towards a movie, you gotta take a step back and not take everything personally. It's like you're all critiquing the film, and the whether the sequence works or not might have nothing to do with you. It might have to do with, it wasn't set up properly, or it wasn't, there's something that we're missing, or something that wasn't written into it. And I think,
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you're invited to join us in just 15 minutes for the D23 Expo Street Party, presented by Alamo, which is going to travel right down Mickey Avenue through the heart of D23 Expo. This special street party celebrates the wonderful worlds of Disney with a live band and energetic dancers who join together with some of your favorite Disney pals and celebrity guest marshals for the ultimate D23 Expo experience. The fun begins in just 15 minutes. See you then.
I forgot what I was saying. No, I think that's the way. So you count on the fact that you're doing it as a team, and you just got to work at not taking everything personally.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge. It is.
Yeah, I agree. It's business. It's not personal. But I always have a day of mourning. Like after, because you work really hard. I am a procrastinator, so I will. So I'll kind of mess around. Like if I have a week deadline, I'll be thinking, but I can't really get myself to buckle down. And then as the deadline looms, I work more and more frantically. And so there's this sort of climax where I pitch, and I know, don't take it personal. I have to be okay with, throwing away 500 drawings. But there is the day after, I always have this sort of, I can't do anything. I'm a puddle. I'm a mess. I have to sort of find the spirit again, and then after that day of mourning, I'm able to kind of go, okay, now I see these are good notes. Let me just try it again. So you develop it over time, like a scab, I guess.
Keeps getting ripped off.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Thank you so
everyone
much,
for coming.
everyone.